I will read a very brief chapter from it, 2.5 pages, 6 minutes, but I need to probably explain to you a little bit the context of where this chapter is set. The subtitle of the book is Between Spirituality and Technology, a journey to the end of the world to cure a chronic backache. Everybody's standing straight. I know the feeling. And because basically I had a typical midlife crisis at 40, a divorce and a career changing and the first white hair and my beard and my hair, and I decided to finally it was the time to take care of the major problem, which was a chronic backache which had dragged behind me for 20 years. And so I started in my hometown in Vicenza, where a strange posturologist put some things on the front of my teeth because he said it was connected to my back, and that didn't work. So when I finally ended up going to a friend's wedding in Boulder in Colorado, I started doing yoga ashtanga with someone that I nicknamed the Clint Eastwood of yoga ashtanga, Richard Freeman, a very cool teacher. And then I was rolfed, which means basically someone gets elbows into your back until you start screaming. And that didn't work really that well. So then I moved on to Los Angeles, and that's when kind of the book finally woke up, because I was exposed at a friend's house, someone I just met at a dinner, and she said, you know, oh, I have the solution for your back. And we go to this friend's house in Venice Beach, California, and she hooks me up with some strange machineries, my head, my ankles, wasn't S&M, but it was a bioquantum feedback, which basically explained to me, as she translated what she was reading from the screen, that the problem with my back was connected to a karmic knot, something that my prior incarnation, a social crime, a prior incarnation had done in 1658. I don't know exactly what it was, but that was the problem. I kind of born in Geneva, so I'm a bit skeptical, and I wasn't even Christian, so grew up an atheist. And I had a problem with the idea of spirituality and the soul. So to see it photographed on the screen was a bit of a shock, and kind of clicked in me this idea of pairing the search for a cure for my backache with an investigation of spirituality and technology. So that's where the book took off. And I took off also to go back to Italy and to join a friend into a trance music rave party on the mountains above Portofino, where I investigated, after witnessing a spiritual healing on the dance floor, the relationship between electronic music and spirituality, which was quite interesting. And this spiritual healer, this friend of mine, invited me to Argentina, so that's where I started to shift the whole investigation into Argentina. I ended up going to Cordoba. By coincidence, I discovered there is someone here from there, so she'll know what I'm talking about. A very mysterious mountain area north of Argentina, where they actually have the marks of the spaceships that have landed on the mountains in a place called Los Terrones. Anyway, I was introduced to a shaman woman who tried to figure out what was wrong with my back, and there were no drugs involved, but I had a lot of visions while she did this treatment into my back, maybe breathe in a certain way while she pressed the painful points. I had visions, and I described them in the book, and tried always to give a rational explanation of why this was happening to me, like the following exorcism I was subjected to later on in Argentina, in which I was supposed to discuss with Chango, this mountain divinity, about my back problems. So anyway, none of that worked, so I fly back to Italy. I joined an ashram and learned meditation in Assisi, the hometown of St. Francis, and that leads to open the door to the second movement of the book, which takes place in India. And that's what I'm going to read you later on, very briefly. It's my first night in India, after having wanted to go to India for my whole life, but being afraid of India in a certain way, afraid of getting sick, afraid of a lot of irrational things. But for some strange reason, I waited until very late before going there, even though I traveled a lot. There in India, I went to Mysore, which is the hometown of Pattabhi Jois, the inventor of Ashtanga Yoga, and I practiced with him for a month before. I was very lucky because 4 months later he died, but no connection with my visit. And then I went to an Ayurvedic clinic in the south where this Dr. Shambhu was convinced that the cure for my backache was the big enema. And that didn't work. So then I joined my meditating friends in Arunachala, a holy mountain in south of India, where they took me for a barefoot pilgrimage around the holy mountain, about 10 miles barefoot, with another million Hindus chanting the mantras. And whether that worked or not, I won't tell you, because I think the book will come out in English, so you might want to read it eventually. But what I will read now is the chapter that takes place in Mysore. The first night I spent there, after a very long flight, listening to someone who had a psychological problem. I discovered because I saw a psychological magazine he had in his bag at the end of the flight. Basically, he talked uninterruptedly from London to Bangalore. The steward came trying to stop him, and he tried for a moment and he couldn't. He just kept talking and talking and talking. At the time I saw it as a metaphor of the chattering mind. And so he's mentioned within this chapter very briefly, so that's why I explained to you in advance. The title of the chapter is My Miserable Life in Mysore. The Conscience's Inventory. Okay, and now the inventory. Fan on the ceiling? Check. The Ganesh decal on the kitchen wall? Check. Neighbors with loud music? Check. 3 shelves where I can roll out the content of my backpack, meaning 3 pairs of trousers, 4 pairs of underwear, 3 shirts, 6 t-shirts, 4 books, vitamins, anti-mosquito spray, 1 bag of medicines? Check. There is also, unfortunately, that neon light to blame for the sudden and deep languor that crushes me, and out of the blue, stamped in my Swiss Venetian self-control, Mein Gott im Himmel, I violently crash land, and suddenly I miss everyone. Terribly. My son, my mother, my brother and his family, my sisters, my nephews, my London friends, my friends in Venice, and I miss you, whoever you are, reading these words. And all the people with whom I've dealt with in the last few months, Roberto and Giorgio, Matteo, Bob, and all my friends who have been able to cross paths with in Italy, in the United States, in Argentina. I'm almost tempted to start missing my ex-wife, but no, I don't miss her. Too many were the fights and too strong the conflicts. However, I've been painfully missing everyone, with an emotion I had not felt in how long? I don't know. But I know that I felt inside of me that I'd never ever see any of you again, but really never. There it is, sudden, unexpected, harsh solitude. I've lived with a lot of solitude in the last 2 years, and maybe my whole life, starting from when I was 16 years old and I left my family to go live in the US. I should be used to it, but what I feel now is not just a reassuring and regenerating solitude that I'm familiar with. This is feeling lonely and alien. Yes, me, who thought that I'd always been lonely and alien. Everything will change tomorrow, I tell myself. I'm too tired for the trip, I repeat to myself. Tomorrow I'll meet the other yogis and everything will be fine, I try to prod myself on. But the center of my chest and stomach give in. They really feel like they want to collapse. Must be that neon light, yes, or it's because of sleep deprivation, right? This is what my annoying, irrational self keeps repeating. Tropical buzz, different time zone, disorientation. Maybe it's just because I've been feeling so good these last weeks before the departure, and all the positive signs for next year, and etc., and blah, blah, blah. My mind starts chatting like an all-too-talkative Indian on the London-Bangalore BA 111 flight. And now, instead, here comes the question, the classic one. Yes, we are exactly at that moment. What am I doing here? I tell myself that in Europe it is dark and cold, and the toughest month of the year is about to come, November. Maybe I should have stayed there, close to my son, writing, working my butt off. Tonight, I don't breathe the air of happy vacation I was hoping I'd feel in my lungs. I must find the calm to sleep, and tomorrow start with a whole new rhythm. It could very well be that this is the premise of the famous deep change people say India sets in motion, that slow but constant massage of the soul that hurts at first, while those dark knowing hands dig among the ribs of your emotional and mental habits, making you cry like a baby and then making you feel anciently new. As if this land were capable in and of itself, for some arcane electromagnetic or magic force to set in motion profound sensations that pressure those who feel them into facing themselves. In fact, on day 3, here comes the blow, exactly as that neon-colored sadness had landed upon me. Here comes, quick as a sneeze, that great feeling of well-being, on the verge of euphoria, that must be the other side of the impact that this land has on Westerners. After breakfast, I visited, alone and barefoot, the Imperial Mysore Palace, which is a practical joke, historically speaking, because it has been entirely rebuilt by an English architect less than 100 years ago, but who cares? Among its gardens, among the first Vishnu and Rama temples I ever visited in my life, speaking with a guide of the battles of Rama and the demons, among statues of growling tigers who misspell their threats into "don't touch me," in a certain way diminishing their menacing impact, among families of elephants being painted colorfully by workers, and a river of barefoot Indians who serenely flow along the sumptuous corridors of Mysore Palace, there it is that I start feeling a great welcome, more pleasant than an early morning hot chai tea. Even better when I start wandering about town on a quick rickshaw, searching for a table lamp so I can get rid of that neon light, rushing through the little shops of the dark quarters of town, where you don't really see white tourists with hats and backpacks, but only merchants and local clients who yell at Kumal, the rickshaw driver I hired for 2 hours. Kumal, who doesn't get the difference between light bulb and table lamp, and takes me to a series of television shops, and along the route, among elderly people on broken bicycles and other rickshaws who rush towards us at full speed, blasting their little horns, and the indifferent women selling their stuff on the floor but never nervous or jumpy, and the shoe-shine boy who tries to stick his hand in my pocket and gets driven away by my driver with a shove and 2 slaps on the head that are too loud for my sensitivity. Then I realize that the external chaos pacifies my internal one, and in the night, finally, maybe thanks to my new 60-watt light bulb screwed into a small black table lamp turned toward the sand-colored wall, I feel so free, light and happy that I almost feel the caresses of the warm embrace of Mother India rocking me in her delirious sweetness, and I fall asleep with a smile.